The earth is my home. I promise to keep it healthy and beautiful. I will love the land, the air, the water, and all living creatures. I will be a defender of my planet, united with friends. I will save the earth. United with friends, I promise to keep it. United with friends, I will love the land. United with friends.
My name is Commissioner Frank Avila, and the name of our show is STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And today, as my guest to explain all about STEM, I have Manju Sharma. Thanks for being on my show, Manju. Manju, could you explain to the audience your background?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Like Commissioner Avila said, I'm Manju Sharma. My background is I am a civil engineer. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in civil engineering with an emphasis in water resources. I spent 28 years working with Commissioner Avila at the MWRD, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and retired recently. And now I am in private consulting with SPAAN Tech.
Well,
as a
thank you
senior
very
vice
much,
president.
Manju. And you know, Manju is one of the experts in wastewater throughout the world. At the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, we have the largest wastewater plant, and Manju was the director of maintenance operation to make sure all 7 plants operated efficiently. We have an expert here in Cook County. My next guest is I have Bob Johnson. And Bob Johnson, could you please explain your background?
For 45 years, I was a structural engineer in the city of Chicago working on a variety of building projects. Too many to mention on the program. About 30 years ago, I got involved in STEM outreach. And for 30 years now, I've been doing various outreach programs on STEM activities, again, throughout the city, and gotten some acclaim for all the way I've been bringing an awareness of STEM education to children of all ages.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, STEM, again, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And here in the Chicagoland area, we used to do all our STEM programs in person. Thousands of kids used to come to our programs. Now, we can't do it anymore. We have to do it virtually. And on this show, we're going to show you, the kids and the parents, where to go to learn about the STEM programs and the activity. And I'm going to have Bob Johnson explain the various STEM programs that are going to be going on throughout the Chicagoland area. Bob, would you, and it's the programs and the competition. Bob, could you explain the different programs that will be held here in the Chicagoland area, and the whole world could see this program and educate the whole world? Because why, Bob? Kids are going to save the planet, and the only way kids are going to save the planet is if we educate them in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Well, as you said, it's a new world we're living in. The fact that we can't meet in person to educate the kids and bring an awareness of the various programs. But a lot of these programs are now readapting to virtual programs. Some of the programs that we already have in place is Engineers Week. The website is discovery.org, and they're converting over to virtual presentations. Locally, we have Chicagoland E-Week, and nationally, one of the biggest programs is the USA Science and Engineering Festival. They every other year have a huge program in Washington, D.C. Now, many of you can't attend it because it's in Washington, D.C. Well, now they're going virtual, and you're going to have the opportunity to participate in that program virtually. The date is September 16th through the 23rd, and it'll be a virtual program on the internet. If you want more information, it's real easy, usasciencefestival.org. There's a host of engineering competitions. Those competitions now have to be done virtually. The biggest one is the FIRST Robotics. I'm still waiting to find out how virtually they're going to do it with the robots, but locally and actually nationally is the Future City competition. And Frank has participated in that, Commissioner Avila, in many years, where we have a huge assembly of the students in January. Well, that's now all going to be done virtually. And for Future City, just go to your website, futurecity.org, and the competition will be held virtually. And another big event is the IIT Bridge competition. We held it in January. In May was going to be the national competition. But because of the COVID, we could not host the actual competition. Well, that competition now will be held online, and we're waiting to find out when the bridge models will be broken online. And I'm looking to see what they're going to do next year with regards to, again, hosting all these competitions virtually.
Well, that's good. And for the information for the website of the programs and for the website of competition, you can email me, avilatvproducers@sbcglobal.net. It's on the screen right now. So for information on all the website programs that Bob just mentioned, and there's more, and also the various competition, email, as I mentioned, avilatvproducers@sbcglobal.net, and Bob will answer all your questions throughout the Chicagoland area, and not only in the Chicagoland area, throughout the world, because we have the expert engineers and scientists here in the Chicagoland area. Manju, explain how big the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago is.
Absolutely. So Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Chicago serves two purposes. There's the stormwater management side of it, and then there's the wastewater treatment side of it. We have 7 wastewater treatment plants ranging anywhere from 1.4 billion gallons a day down to 200 million gallons a day of wastewater that is being treated by our 7 wastewater treatment plants. It's an infrastructure that is probably approximately $2 billion worth of infrastructure that is maintained. We also include, of course, our plants have buildings, they have railroad, we have roadways, we have parking lots, reservoirs, and the most famous of all is the deep tunnel. So we have 554 miles of intercepting sewers that we run that are roughly 4 feet in diameter, 5 feet in diameter. Then we have 110 miles of deep tunnel that is 30 feet in diameter, and about 12 pumping stations that get the water to the wastewater treatment plants to treat on a daily basis. It runs 24/7. Hence why every time you wash your hands or flush your toilet, you don't have to worry about where that water is going because the Water Reclamation District is handling all of it.
Yeah, thank you very much. As Manju mentioned, we have the largest wastewater plant in the world here in Cook County. That's a Stickney plant. And we have the largest reservoirs in the world, McCook and Thornton reservoirs. We have the largest ultraviolet light treatment plant in the world, which is on the north side in Skokie. We are big. As Manju mentioned, our budget is $1.1 billion. And people from all over the world come and see how we operate. And we, at the district, virtually, we are going to go out and educate the kids about how we protect the health and welfare of the residents of Cook County, because the pandemic that we're facing now, with all the viruses coming along, is that when it comes into our plant, we kill it. It doesn't survive when it hits our plant because there's no host. And the way we treat wastewater, and as Manju mentioned, we treat wastewater. What is wastewater? Wastewater, if we treat all your poop and pee in Cook County. Just think of it, guys. When you eat and drink and you flush that toilet, what you poop and pee comes into our plant. That's what we treat. And we protect your health and welfare. And we want to educate the kids about the science, about the technology, about the engineering and math, not only on wastewater plants, but on structural work. Bob, explain what a structural engineer does and how they protect the health and welfare of the public.
Well, most people, when I was beginning my profession, even today, people ask me, what do you do? I says, I design buildings. And they say, oh, you're an architect. And I go, no, I'm not an architect. The architect designs a building to make it function, to make it look pretty, to make it operate. But it's the engineer that makes it stand up. So the way I explain it to children is I'm the skeleton, the backbone of the building that makes the building stand. And the only time, sadly, people know about us is when there's a catastrophe. And back in 2001, we had the catastrophe of 9/11, and we learned how important structural engineering is. And I point out to people for an hour and a half, those buildings stood. And that was the structural engineer that was responsible for the design of the building to make the World Trade Center stand up. Also with regards to bridges, we're the engineers that make the bridges stand up. And again, about the only time you hear about us is when a bridge has a catastrophic event. But think about all your buildings. They're all standing up. All your bridges are standing up because the structural engineer designed them to stand up in earthquakes, windstorms, and even people just don't think about it. If you overload a building, and in Chicago we've seen it a number of times with people congregating on their porches, if they put too many people on the porches and load it up with beer kegs, they're not designed for a tremendous amount of load, or they actually are, but if they don't maintain them and let the wood rot, the porches collapse.
And not only that, can you imagine sending a rocket ship up to space? Who designed that structurally so it doesn't fall apart?
Well, one of the things that aggravates engineers is when we hear the term rocket scientist. There's no such thing as a rocket scientist. It's all engineering. If we're going to go to Mars, it's going to be the engineers that design the spacecraft and the vehicles to land on Mars or going to the moon. That's all engineering, and we've got to figure out how to do it right now. That's not the science. It's combining science, math, and technology to create the vehicles to get to Mars or get to the moon. And then when you're there, what's going to be your environment to bring your environment with you to the moon and to Mars. And again, that's all engineering.
And now because of the pandemic that's going on, as I mentioned, and Bob mentioned, and Manju mentioned, that there's websites of programs for the kids to participate virtually to learn about engineering. They got civil engineering, Manju.
Yes.
What other engineers?
Mechanical, electrical,
Structural,
chemical, yes.
chemical, biology,
Manufacturing.
manufacturing.
Are you talking about the pandemic? The doctors are going to, and the scientists are going to create the vaccine. Now the thing is how do we replicate the vaccine 1 million, 10 million, 100 million times? It's going to be the engineers that create the manufacturing process to replicate that vaccine 100 million times. And people just take it for granted.
Yes, and now don't forget now, virtually we have programs, the engineers have programs, and the scientists have programs on the website now virtually to teach the kids. As Bob mentioned, we have Engineering Week, right, Bob?
Right.
We have, you want to read the website programs, Bob? Just read them and show them that there's to email us, avilatvproducers@sbcglobal.net.
Well, the websites we have, Engineers Week is discovery.org. It's not with a Y, it ends in an E. We have chicagolandeweek.org. That's one whole word, chicagolandeweek.org. The electrical engineers have a dedicated website on engineering. That's IEEE. The website is tryengineering.org. Locally, there's a great website called STEM Kids Chicago, and it's a compilation of a host of STEM events. And they've got a real easy website. It's called stemkidschicago.com. Again, locally, another group is the Chicago Engineers Foundation. They host programs, outreach programs to children and students. And they also, the key thing with the Chicago Engineers Foundation is they host scholarship programs. And literally dozens and dozens of high school students get STEM scholarships. Their website is fairly easy to remember, is chicagoengineersfoundation.org. Structural Engineers Association has a website and an outreach program. Just type in seaoi.org. Then there's some dedicated programs. There's a group called the Chicago Science and Engineering Group. Their website is chiprep.org, and they host programs for K through, I think, 8. Another great program is Project Sincere. They have dedicated programs for students, and their website is fairly easy to remember. It's just Projects Sincere, SYNCERE.org. Finally, another umbrella group for STEM in Chicago is the Chicago STEM Pathways Cooperative, and their dedicated website is projectexploration.org, and they host a lot of STEM programs. So this is just some of them. I could go on and on.
And to get all the information, as I mentioned, email to Avila Media TV at sbcglobal.net, and I'll give the information to Bob, and he'll send out the information to you there. So thank you very much. Now, Manju, virtually now, we have to educate our kids virtually, right?
Right.
Times have changed, right?
Absolutely.
See, so what other ways do you think we could educate our kids?
Well, I think, websites and Zoom meetings, that's how everybody is getting educated these days. And it almost presents an opportunity when you think about it, because your teachers can easily invite people. You don't even have to go to a school. You can participate. They can invite somebody like Bob or myself, and we can talk to the kids about different types of engineering or what it takes to become an engineer. So while it is a challenge, at the same time, I believe it's also an opportunity to get a wider perspective. I think Bob was just mentioning to me earlier how this has brought the world closer because we're all able to participate from different parts of the world via technology. So that would be one way to get people more involved with education.
Now, Bob Johnson, the structural engineer we have here, one of the experts here in the Chicagoland area, he talked about the website of programs. Now we also have website of competition, where our kids, every year they compete. Different schools compete against each other in different aspects in engineering. And Bob, would you explain, please, the different programs that we have here in the Chicagoland area, and the kids could participate. High school, grammar school could start participating.
Well, a lot of these websites have got pretty complicated web addresses. So what I found on the internet, the best way to do this is if you remember the right words, just type in Google. It's just a fantastic, resources. Google is just type in certain keywords. Like with the Future City competition, that's an easy one. So you just type in futurecity.org and you'll bring up that competition. For the IIT Bridge competition, it's a difficult website. Just type in Google, type in IIT Bridge Contest. For the First Robotics competition, their website is somewhat simple. It's just firstillinoisrobotics.org. Or if you want to find out more information, just type in First Robotics Competition. There's more and more websites you can check. A great one, and they're going virtual now somehow with regards to their program, is the Icebox Derby that's hosted by ComEd. And their website is just iceboxderby.com, and I just found out that they're having some now virtual event for their annual event. Of all people, it's the Arab Engineers host an annual essay competition where the students write an essay about a famed engineer that's changed our world. So just type in AAAEA, that's for American Association of Arab Engineers Association, poster essay, and you should bring up their website. There's also a host of other robotics competitions. Key thing is just Google robotics and see what comes up. That's how I find out a lot about what's going on in STEM, is just search the internet with regards to engineering STEM and see what you find, or some other key words like VEX Robotics is another competition, the 1080 robotics competition. So just play around on Google with regards to STEM engineering education. And don't forget to also, when you do it in Google, remember you have the Google and you also have the image section and you have the video section. Like with regards to what we're talking about here right now, Frank, if you were to type in Avila, Johnson,
Manju?
educating children,
Yes.
you'll bring up yours and my video from about 10 years ago where I show how structural engineering works. So again, just play around on Google with regards to what STEM education videos are out there, and or mechanical engineering, structural engineering, and see what you find. I mean, it's amazing how much stuff now is on the internet with regards to lectures and competitions.
And here in the Chicagoland area, we have a lot of experts in their fields, and everyone wants to help the kids now. And why is it so important to help the kids, Manju?
Well, I think our schools do a really good job of building blocks, whether it's language, reading, history, or math, or even science. But I'm not sure how well we're educating them in terms of engineering, because engineering is where it all comes together. Right? These are all building blocks. I'm not sure how good we're doing in terms of telling them why they're learning these things. So engineering is all about solving problems, like I said, and whether it's a problem of clean water, whether it's a problem of transportation or comfort in a building, all of these aspects go into it, and I'm not sure if we're telling our kids, and we need to tell our kids more and more, how to put these building blocks to use, to actual use, building railroads, building roadways, buildings, cleaning wastewater, managing stormwater to prevent flooding. All of those things are engineering, and they're all built from reading, math, and science, yet I don't think the kids are able to connect those dots until we tell them. And that's what STEM is all about, educating them about engineering itself, building those blocks together.
Yeah, I agree. As Manju mentioned, Manju is one of the top, as I mentioned, experts here in the Chicagoland area and throughout the world in how to maintain and operate wastewater plants. The expert. We have been invited throughout the world to go give advice on how to maintain and operate the wastewater plants because, as I mentioned, we treat all the human waste that comes into what a person does every day. They get up in the morning, they wash their hands, they take a bath, they eat, they eliminate their waste, and it goes into a wastewater plant. And if a country doesn't have that plant, they come to us to explain to them how they could build one, design and build one. And it's right here in the Chicago area, we have the experts. And here's an expert, Manju, and she's willing to go in and talk to the kids, explain to the kids. We have Bob Johnson, the expert in structural engineering. That involves, as Manju was mentioned, transportation, railroad, buildings. Structural engineering is all over the place there. So, and Bob has all the information on if a principal of a school wants to get involved and get the information, we'll contact Bob, email him at our email address, and Bob will send you the information. And Bob, this pandemic that's going on, why is it so important now to educate the kids in different ways? We got to think out of the box. What are some of the ways, Bob?
Well, again, what's surfaced with regards to trying to cure the problem, it was interesting, and you kind of addressed it with regards to UV lighting, that we learned that UV lighting kills the virus.
Yes.
And in fact, it was interesting, a couple of days ago, my wife had to visit a dentist office. And she mentioned that the dentist had everybody get out of the room. They brought in the ultraviolet lights and screened the room. And then you have a plant now. Yeah. In fact, a little bit of trivia, I worked on that plant up in Skokie where they have UV lighting, ultraviolet lighting that kills the virus. And it'll be the doctors and the scientists that create the vaccine or manufacture the various therapeutic drugs, but it's going to be the engineers that have to replicate the medicines, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 100 million tablets, and the vaccine modules, and to see the plants that actually produce it. Look at the other thing with regards to the ventilators, how they created all the new ventilators. That was engineering.
I think that's a really good point because a lot of times people don't realize a doctor can treat you, but really everything that he's treating you with is designed by an engineer, whether it's a replacement of a knee or it's a cardiogram. All of that equipment that you go through to get your tested, they're all designed by engineers. So a doctor can't even do his job unless the engineer designs the equipment that allows them to do that job.
And also, Bob and Manju, we talk about prevention. We do not want to solve a problem after it's here because it may be too late. We work on prevention before it starts. We want to detect that virus at the beginning or detect any problems at the beginning, and that's why an engineer, a scientist will design something for prevention.
Look at what's going to be happening. It'll be interesting to see with regards to what they're doing now with regards to monitoring temperatures and having cameras check your temperature.